Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jibs, live from the Fantasy Coaches Labs. Tonight we're talking rookie running backs for the upcoming drafts class. So let's get in today. Coach Steve, how are we feeling today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Not too bad. Been up really early this morning, but I'm doing well. I'm ready to talk running backs today because probably my favorite draft class in a while, and especially this year, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about these running backs. So I'm excited.
Oh, look at you, so eager to talk running backs this morning. Coach Sean, how are we feeling?
I feel good. I got to hang out with the family, watch the Masters, chill for Easter yesterday. It was good. And today we get to talk about rookie running backs, everyone's favorite topic. So, yeah, man, it's a great week.
Wow, what a performance by Rom. And we got John, another John today. John, you've been on the podcast before. Welcome back. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I love this time of the year. I was watching a little baseball yesterday. Believe it or not, I love fantasy baseball too. 35 years playing fantasy baseball. God. So I do get to enjoy. I mean, my Orioles lost again against the Yankees, but that's okay. I still got to see a good day of baseball. So that was my Sunday. Of course, Easter, with the family. But, in the modern world, I'm lucky. We got iPads. I can watch my baseball in silence as the family's out on the deck. It's just such an amazing thing. In the old days, I had to sneak off into the back room or listen on the radio. Now,
listen on the radio in the garage.
In the car.
If you knew the amount of times I was doing yard work in the summer with what do they call those old radios? Like the old transistor radios. Yep, just listen to Yankee or Met game in the Northeast here. So to have an iPad with TV is unbelievable.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Welcome to the new age. Welcome to in 10 years, God knows where else we're gonna have. But tonight we have rookie running backs. But first, we're gonna get into the news. Coach Steve, I believe it's this slide.
Yes, it is.
All right, and we're just gonna talk about this major news topic. Odell Beckham secures the bag. Basically got paid as a high-end wide receiver, getting $18 million, 13.5 guaranteed. He's 30 years old, and he hasn't really done nothing since. God, you can tell me. So, how do you feel about that? John, you're the guest. You go first. How do you feel about Odell Beckham with the Ravens?
Well, I will not have him in any fantasy leagues at all this year. I think he's toast. But I do say this. He's a better NFL player than fantasy player now. He will command attention. He will open up routes for other receivers. You still have to account for him. I mean, I don't think he has a 1,000-yard season in him anymore. I don't think he could handle the 140, target workload that he did with the Giants. Will this help the other players on the team? Yes. Mark Andrews. Will help if Rashad Bateman comes back. I still expect the Ravens to draft another receiver on day 2. So I think it helps the Devin Duvernay, right? It helps the simpatico with the team with Odell is more important than what actually Odell contributes in a fantasy format, in my opinion.
Coach
yeah,
John.
I agree with him 100%. That's kind of how I feel. I'm not into the idea of Odell Beckham for fantasy, but what it shows me is that the team is trying to lure Lamar Jackson back and not lose him. And they're trying their best to be like, look, we'll sign other we'll get you somebody, come back to us. And so I think this is a good sign to me for the Lamar Jackson sort of talks and what's going on there. And the fact that if they were convinced that they were losing Lamar, they wouldn't sign Odell. They wouldn't do it. So there's still hope that he's coming back to Baltimore and things will get done and dusted there. So that's more important to me than Odell in a vacuum. But it will help the offense. It will help kind of everything. I think he's a good receiver, but I don't know if he's, fantasy dynamo anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of said everything about Odell as it is. I mean, he's way past his prime at this point for being 30 years old. He's definitely going to help out the other skill players on the Ravens. We're going to hope that this helps Lamar Jackson want to come back more. I mean, he wants to come back. It's just the money situation. But, yeah, let's throw $18 million almost to a 30-year-old wide receiver. Why don't we? Because that's going to help your cap situation. But, yeah, I mean, sell him off in Dynasty if you can after this, if someone's willing to buy him because he's with a team now. Because I don't see a 1,000-yard season, and I don't see him lasting past this year. And especially with Lamar Jackson, you can't expect him to, even help him get to 1,000 yards with Mark Andrews there and how they run the ball. So it's good for Odell to get 18 million, but yeah, definitely not good for his fantasy.
Great for him.
Odell,
great for him. Good for Odell.
Ravens probably aren't too upset either. He'll sell a lot of jerseys. He'll sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah,
He probably, yeah.
Not terrible.
All right, and then last question for you guys is one-word answer on Odell. On the dynasty side of things, where's a fair market valuation for Odell Beckham?
Late second.
If someone gave me a second-round pick, I would ship Odell in a heartbeat.
2024 second.
And I would probably consider a third in the rights, early third at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I would consider an early third. Anywhere in the second, I would send him.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I'd send him. Yeah, he's gone. And if you offered me like the 304, I'd consider it. And then everything else. Yeah. But everything else, you're gone. See Odell.
Yeah. And John, you had something you wanted to say?
No, I just, I think it's a perfect opportunity in Dynasty to sell on name in the off season. What if something happens to him in training camp? What if he gets a knee like now, I think his most valuable time is right now before he actually arrives at training camp. He's still a name player and people haven't dug deep enough. I mean, I don't remember. Is his last 1,000-yard season 2018? I mean, it might be that long ago now. He had 3 straight, and I don't think he's had 1,000 yards since then. That's a long time ago now. I mean, he has moments, right? Yeah. With the Rams, he had moments. With the Browns, he had moments. But it was never like, oh my God, I got to play Odell in DFS. He's my number 1 starter. Like, he was a great flex guy, right? Like, if you had 3 receivers and Odell was in flex, you're like, okay, I'm all right with that.
That's it, right? Oh, man. All right, well, let's get into the nick of things, guys. We're going to go with these rookie running backs. And we're going to start with Eric Gray. Coach Steve has him 10th. John has him outside. Both Johns have him outside their top 10. So, you guys can read the stats for yourself. Coach Steve, since you're the highest on him, I'm gonna let you start off. What's good about Eric Gray?
Just in general, since a lot of these running backs are like so close in terms of like where I rank a lot of them. But with Eric Gray, I liked a lot what I saw on film with him. Somebody who can, change direction real easily, get into the open field, and really just make defenders miss. And that's some of the things you saw early on film. It's like, wow, if this guy gets in the space, like, watch out. Like, he's going to be hard to tackle. And not because he's powerful or anything, but he can just find ways to make defenders just look the other way. And he's gone 30 yards downfield. He's got a good receiving skill set to him. Again, he's got a little bit more on the treads a little bit there, or I would have him higher. But, he produced well enough in Tennessee, and then he went to Oklahoma, and then he got his shot finally his senior year and just exploded. And he was one of the few bright spots on this Oklahoma Sooners team. And I like him a lot. I think he can fit well at the next level at the NFL and be kind of like a 1B. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who is a true like workhorse or anything like that, but he could be a good change of pace guy and produce really well, especially if he gets that receiving skill set. He had 2 seasons over 30 receptions. I like him, and that's kind of why I have him at 10 overall.
I don't disagree. I mean, he was a great prospect coming in, good player. I like him a lot. I think he is Good in short area stuff, good quickness. My only two problems with him, and not that I don't like him, he's just happens to be outside my top 10. Age, he's a little bit older, and I think he can lose to arm tackles a little more than I like. I don't like him getting dragged down like that. To me, is something that happens a lot in the NFL, and if it's happening in college, then it's just going to be hard because everyone's bigger and faster and stronger in the NFL. So if you're losing to arm tackles, sometimes I'm like, I don't love that kind of quality. But overall, like you said, good, quick, shifty kind of guy. He could be a good sort of change of pace back. I like him. I just don't. There's just I got like 10 or 11 other guys I tend to like a little more.
I loved his production his last year at Oklahoma. I thought watching the film, he became a much better inside runner. When he was at Tennessee, I kind of labeled him as an outside runner. The coaching staff worked with him. They tweaked the offense. He rose to the occasion. So I was very bullish when I put him in my production model. When I looked at the size, he's 5'9", 209. So he's got that nice size that I'm looking for. He skipped the combine, which is always a red flag for me. And then at his pro day, he ran a 4.63 and a 7.25.
Unofficial.
Unofficial. So he did come down the board. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better numbers. So it warns me a little bit. How athletic is he? I do like him. Obviously, if he gets drafted in the 4th round, I could feel good about him. But if he falls to the 5th or 6th round, then I'm really going to be torn because I do like the film, but I really have to ask myself, how athletic is Eric Gray?
Understandable. Okay. Let's get into the next guy, Dwayne McBride. Wow. Coach Steve and Coach John have him outside the top 10, and our guest John has him as his 10th running back. So you're off, John. Go. Let it rip.
I do like Dwayne McBride, but I will admit that I think he's a 2-down grinder. He's kind of like Juwan Howard when he came out of Indiana. And if you remember, Howard originally went to UAB. I think if Dwayne McBride was around in 1994, I think he'd be up higher up the board. Because he can definitely run the ball between the tackles. Obviously, a massive flag with only 5 career receptions. I don't know if he can catch. I can't tell you he can't catch. I literally can't analyze 5 receptions. The only thing I will say in context, UAB does not throw the football to the running back. So it's really kind of this black hole of information. What I do say is it's a red flag. We just literally don't know. Do I think he will have a job in the NFL? Yes, I do. When you have a 30% market share, you led the nation in rushing. And this stat, I know it was at the group of 5 level. He averaged 7.3 yards a carry in his career. That is an impressive number. If he ever gets an opportunity, if because of injuries, depth chart, like all of a sudden in week 10, he's going to get 20 carries. Hey, he might do something with it, right? So I like this young player. There are red flags, but he also is 215 pounds, which is also a nice weight for him at this level.
Yeah. I put in my notes watching McBride that it was similar to like a James Robinson. Like he takes everything you give him plus a little more. Like he's powerful enough to like kind of run you over, not afraid to lower his shoulder. He has a good eye for the end zone. Like when he's in that red zone and down by the goal line, he just seems to eke his way in, which, that's just football sense, just a good eye for it. And so, I like him. He's a good hard runner. Like you said, if this was 1992, he'd be top of the draft board. I just don't know where he fits in the NFL game right now. And that's my only fear is that I just think that what we look for in fantasy production, especially is, big plays and pass catching. And I'm just afraid that McBride hit that, but he could easily become, if he gets in the right system, right offense, and he could have an outlier, LeGarrette Blount type season where he's got 15, 16 touchdowns if it just happens to fall that way. I'm not saying rookie year, but at some point in his career, he could certainly be that guy, like Williams was for the Lions last year. Just happens to be. I just don't know. That's why he's I have him at 11, so he's just outside my top 10, but that's kind of why I'm just afraid of McBride. But great runner, and he would be an absolute threat in the red zone for any NFL team. So he could find himself a good role.
Doesn't he look like a Ron Rivera back? You know, like Ron Rivera's sitting there. Oh, yeah, give me him in the fourth round, right?
They already have a player like that. They don't need another one.
Brian Robinson.
He wants another one. Like, it just
You don't need two.
The only thing better than one Ford F-150 is two Ford F-150.
No. But yeah, I mean, you guys said a lot of great things. Like, he's one player I'm much lower on that I know that, like, if he ends up doing that really good, I know like that's the one player on my list that's much lower. Like, I know I'm going to regret that. I mean, good vision. You guys kind of said a lot of great things about him. The only things, like I said, the passing skills, like the receiving skills, I don't know if they're there or not at all. And that scares me for a prospect to not know if they have that talent in them or not. He's not going to create yards on his own. He's just going to take what's given to him. And, he had a ball security problem. He had 11 fumbles over the last 2 seasons. Hate to see that. Again, hopefully that's something that can be fixed at the next level. But again, if you mess up early on in your career, you know what happens. Especially if he ends up like all the Patriots or something, you know what happens when it comes to players like that. You're not seeing the field. So
over.
He's definitely interesting. It's just that there's too many red flags for me to like trust him in, especially in my top 10.
Oh, no complaints on that one. Devon Kane. Well, Coach Steve has him 8th. Coach John has him 10th. Outside the top 10 for John. I'm going to let John start on this one. Tell me a little bit why you like him, and then give me a reason why you hate him too, or concern for you. I want to say hate.
You have to say which John that is.
Yeah.
I will always defer to the other John.
Oh, guess first then.
I love his explosiveness, and I love his versatility because you can line him up in a one-back set. You can put him in motion. You could play him. He can run patterns out of the slot. You could even probably put him in motion out to the Z. So there's so much you can do with him. And I'm not trying to be a sizeist, but the reality is he's well under 200 pounds. And if you look historically, in the last 3 years, I guess it's not deep historical, but it's the same when I did it in the past. But in the last 3 years, only 2 backs under 200 pounds have finished as a top 24 PPR receiving fantasy football. Those are Nyheim Hines and Jarek McKissick, JD McKissick. And we all know why those players ended up in the top 24. Their teams were awful. They were playing from behind, and they would just end up with like 8 targets, 7 receptions for 65 yards, which would, end up giving you 15 points. And if they scored, then all of a sudden you were 21. There is no starting running back under 200 pounds who can carry you volume-wise for an entire season. So I'm pretty stuck on the 200 pound. And I understand, like, I'm fine if you want a third string flex running back with high ceiling. That's not my goal in fantasy sports. Now, from an asset and an NFL standpoint, that's a total different story. Mm-hmm. You put him on the field in 11 personnel, you get him mismatched with a linebacker or a safety, he is going to be a massive problem for the defense. But I don't see him getting 15 touches a game.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same. Oh shit! I'm kind of in the same boat. I like him. I like the player. He's great, solid. Like NFL will look at him a lot differently than how fantasy production and players should look at him. You throw him in Kansas City, you throw him in Miami, you put him in San Francisco, the right play caller, the right system, he's going to be great. And he'll have big plays and he'll be awesome. But to rely on that for fantasy week in and week out is just be asking for trouble. You're just going to beat your head against the wall. To me, A-Chain's one of those guys. He's going to be valuable in punt return, valuable special teamer. They'll have design plays for him and he'll be really good, but I'm not blowing a late first round rookie draft pick on that player. I'm just not doing that. I'll take my shots elsewhere and take my chances elsewhere. So I think his value is what's kind of crushing me right now, and why I'm starting to bury him in my rankings is because I don't want to pay the price that people are paying for him for the idea that maybe he turns out to be, I don't know, Tavon Austin. It's like, okay, great. Like that's fine, but I'm not building a championship roster around that. So I love the player. I think he's a good player. I think he has a role in the current NFL, the way the NFL is sort of evolving into these quick, speedy, fast guys. I just don't know if I'm willing to bite the bullet at 110 to put that on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I think it really depends on his landing spot and where he goes. If he goes to a team where like the play call is very creative and knows how to get a player like him in open space or in big run situations, he's going to thrive at the next level. And that's part of the reason why I do like him at 8. I mean, vision's excellent, has that big playability to him. There's definitely downside. You guys kind of named most of them already at this point here. He definitely has special teams value, so he's going to be drafted. It's not even an issue. But I think that there's a way for him to get involved in an offense. They can use him in different ways, whether it's obviously running the ball, obviously in the passing game, and obviously we've seen a couple guys do it in the passing game. And if he lands in that situation where he's involved in the passing game, we've seen more running backs as of recently being more involved in the passing game. He can explode at the next level here. Again, there's concerns for sure. It's like a high risk, high reward kind of sitting for me at 8 right now. But I think there's a lot of high reward to him that I like him at 8.
And going on to number 11, Chase Brown. Coach Steve has him outside the top 10. Coach Sean has him 8th. And our guest Sean has him outside the top 10.
Oh man, this is the one that I thought I was gonna get some flack on, so I'm ready. I'm ready. So this is the thing I will say about Chase Brown. He is, we were just talking about A-Chain. Chase Brown's the opposite. He's big, 215, 220, built like a absolute brick house. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's what you want. His contact balance is amazing. He's not going to fall down to arm tackles. He's going to be able to sort of run through guys. He has what I saw in my notes. I put powerfully slick. So he has this sort of like weird, like not weird, but he has this good like lateral sidestep. But he's like someone will try and grab him while he's doing it, and he'll just shake right off of him. So, he keeps his lower body moving at all times throughout the run. I mean, he's a very solid traditional back. I think he's just going to have when we talked about wide receivers, a lot of these guys were slighter. This is a bigger back in this class. I think that's going to have some value. Receptions, the pass catching is good enough. He can do it. He can handle it. You're not going to put him in a pattern, but he can run a wheel route and do it.
He runs a good wheel route,
which is fine, which is all you need him to do. Because once he gets going, he's going. You're not going to get him down. One guy is not going to tackle Chase Brown. It's just not going to happen. So, he was another fun fact. I like when players get up for Biletnikoff and the Walker Awards and things like that. And so he was up for it first time in franchise or, their collegiate history that a running back is up for, the best running back in the league award. So that's nice because that's, his peers that are giving him that. So that's always a good sign. I just like the player. I think he is going to find himself a good role. He has the potential to potentially be a 3-down back. Again, I don't love comps, but similar to what we saw in Pittsburgh and then Arizona.
James Conner.
James Conner. Thank you. Similar to like a James Conner. He can pass catch. He can do everything well. Like he's good enough to be a 3-down back, but I think there is a role for that player somewhere. The problem is he's not going to get the draft capital for a team to really commit to him, which is scary. But again, like I would take my chance with Chase Brown almost before A-Chain, in my opinion. That's just like how I would build a team, because there is a chance that if a team does fall in love with him, he could be a 3-down skill set. It's there. So that's why that's my case for Chase Brown.
All the mock drafts have him going in the 3rd or 4th round for some reason. So, I mean, someone's believing in you like that.
Listen, he's a good back. He could easily fall in the 3rd, 4th round and land somewhere in a good situation. And maybe he's sitting behind Derrick Henry for a year and you're like, all right, this stinks, but eventually I'm going to have something amazing. And so I'm not saying Chase Brown's going to come right out of the box and be a superstar for fantasy. What I'm saying is there is a potential. He has all the skills to be a 3-down back in the NFL if someone gives him that opportunity.
Don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go real quick. I mean, I don't hate him. I think I have him he's my 13th guy right now on the board. I mean, a lot of the good things you said about him, John. I mean, I like a lot of things about him. He's got the speed, obviously. He ran a 4.43 at the combine, which is great. He can burst right through the hole. Decent as a receiver. When watching the film on him a lot of times, I saw that he seemed to go outside more times than I like. Like he would just continue to bounce outside where he could have took the easy yards up the middle of the field. And getting stuff behind the line of scrimmage way too often for my liking. Like you're just watching him like run. I'm just like, oh, like what? Like why couldn't he get out of that situation there? And he could have. I feel like if he just did something, sometimes he just kind of just like saw a tackler coming and just was like, okay. So like things like that kind of really like just like turned me off him a little bit in that sense there. Also at the Senior Bowl, I watched a lot of, what I could watch on the practice and them. He didn't really like wow me at the Senior Bowl at all either. And again, I think he's just a decent player. There's nothing that really wowed me outside of the 40 combine speed that he did. So it's kind of why I have him at 13 outside of my top 10.
I think he's very good at everything. And there isn't one trait that stands out where you're like, all right, even with A-Chain, their one trait is the speed. Like that's the one thing you could say, okay, he can hit the 60-yard home run. When I look at Brown, I say, you know what? He's a complete back. He's a very good football player. But where does he excel? And I go, he's just really good at everything. I mean, he's 209 pounds. He's 5'10". That's super nice. He's more athletic than I thought. He ran a 4.43. I did not expect that athleticism, that speed. So he's got real nice speed, size, combo, BMI, right? 40% market share. So we know that he can handle a real big load. I think he's a running back by committee, like a Boston Scott with a little bit more upside, right? Boston Scott's a nice NFL player in the Eagles rotation. He's been successful. I think that's kind of what Chase Brown is with a little bit more upside. I think he's a bigger, stronger player than Boston Scott.
He also has a lot of tread in his tires. Second most carries in the class, too.
Yeah, I mean, when you play for Brett Bielema at Illinois or when Bielema was at Arkansas, he's going to feed his guys. So, he does have a lot of carries there.
Yeah.
All right, now we're getting to the top 10 of the.
This is another one I thought I was going to get killed on too.
Rankings. Coach John out there on the limb this time has Zach Evans 6 outside the top 10 for both Steve and John. We'll cut you some slack. We'll give you a little time to simmer and think about what you've done, John. But Steve, I'll let you start it off since you kind of been going last. What can you tell us about Zach Evans?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's just another one of those guys that's just like he's really like not great at all. Like he's not like great at a lot of things. He's very physical running back, and it's just nice to see there. Didn't really see much value in the receiving game with him. His pass protection was very inconsistent a lot of times, and I feel like he's kind of scheme fit. I feel like he needs to be in the right scheme to really take his game to the next level or be a really efficient back there. And I feel like if he gets put into the wrong scheme, he might not be as effective as we would want to see there. Again, he was just kind of like an average guy to me. I have him, I think, at 14, I think, something like that. Just like kind of like Chase Brown, like there's nothing that really stood out to me that was just like, oh, wow, he wows me. So,
John?
When he came in at 202, he really fell down my boards. The rumors, I think TCU had him at like 215. Mississippi had him around 215. So I thought he was a big back with some power. Now, I never saw a ton of power. Everyone told me he had a lot of power. But when you actually watch the tape, I kind of felt like he didn't play as powerfully as I had expected. Also, every time I watch Zach Evans play a game live, I always left the game disappointed. I never once said, oh my God, is this guy great? Like when you watch Bijan at Texas, every game I saw him, you were like, holy crap, this guy is special. Even with Devin A-Chain and Texas A&M's, the offense is a disaster. When you would see like, holy crap, is he fast? Like you just see these moments. I never get that with Zach Evans. Never. And he has lost his job twice to Kendre Miller at TCU and Quinshon Judkins at Mississippi. That's just, there's too, you know what? I see a lot of people making excuses for his failures. And maybe I'm just too much of a curmudgeon. But if you got to keep making up excuses for why you're not exceeding, there's essentially something wrong. I just don't see it. I'm not going to have many shares unless he falls into the third round. Not a Zach Evans guy.
Yeah, I'm realizing I screwed up, boys. I'm realizing I screwed up.
your kitty doesn't count the rest of the show now.
Here's the thing, and this is the thing, and to your point, John, is you're right. He does keep losing jobs, which is really alarming. Is like really alarming. That like you're going to lose a job multiple times. Being a 5-star recruit, you're going to lose a job twice. That is a humongous red flag that I think I need to pay more attention to. But, you know, in a vacuum, Zach Evans to me is just, I guess, a little bit more refined Chase Brown, which is why I liked him because he didn't do anything amazing, but he didn't do anything particularly bad either. He was just like solid at everything where I'm like, okay, he's good at, he checks all these boxes. He can catch, he can run, he can do all the stuff you need an NFL running back to do. But then in my head, I kept thinking, I'm like, but he's a 5-star recruit. So there must be more in the tank. There must be. And that's what I keep telling myself. And I think I'm probably wrong at singing that song of like, if everyone saw this kid in high school, he's a 5-star recruit. He was like the number 3 high school recruit in the planet. And all of a sudden he's losing jobs left and right and can't seem to get production at the college level. I'm like, there's got to be more to this story, but maybe there isn't. Maybe he just isn't as good as everyone thought he was. And so, I have to reevaluate.
Yeah, he came out with Bijan Robinson. Has there ever been a moment where you didn't know Bijan Robinson was the best player in football? Like,
100%. No, you're right. You're right. You're totally right.
If I said this, if you didn't, if we could like erase your memory, and you did not know he was a 5-star recruit.
Oh, you'd be.
Would you ever say you saw that on the field?
No, you're right. And that's why I need to reevaluate. I need to reevaluate my process. Yeah, he's a lot higher than he should be. But I do think he will get drafted. I do think he will find a job, as probably a rotational back or a depth piece. So, 6th is probably a little high for that play.
You're not the only one, Coach, because there are other people there are other people. Yeah. I mean, I'm probably really low compared to others, but there are some people who love him. So it's not just you.
All right, thanks. That makes me feel a little better.
If that helps you.
It gives you a life raft right there, John. Coming in at number 9, we have Sean Tucker. Coach Steve has him 7th. Coach Sean has him 9th. Or I guess John has him 8th. You're the middleman, John. The floor is yours.
I like Sean Tucker. I know we don't have his athletic skills, and a little bit scared. I moved him down. I had him up higher. He didn't do anything at the combine other than show up and weigh himself. And he I don't really trust that video he posted of his combine results. Where he just called me a little bit of a skeptic, a healthy skeptic. Like, that is really bizarre, but we'll just leave that alone on there. He's 5'10", 210. I know he's not a between the tackles runner. I get that. I think he's average at best between the tackles. But he scored a lot of career touchdowns, which is fascinating. He has handled a massive workload at the college level. 40% team scrimmage yards dominator. That is just unbelievable. 64 career receptions. I'm not saying he's not a Najee Harris route runner. He gets the ball in the flat, he gets the screen. But man, if he has that lane, he's explosive. When I said there was no trait about Chase Brown, well, Sean Tucker has a trait that you can win with. That is speed on the outside. I mean, that trait is obvious on the football field. I still wish we had a combine number or something, of course. But when he's on tape, his football speed in the open field is so obvious to me. So that's where he wins. I like Tucker a lot. The size, the production model. A lot of things are there. I think he's going to go early, day 3 in the 4th round. I would be shocked if he goes in the 3rd round, but I think he's early, day 4. I like him. I think he starts as a rotational back with some opportunity to carry the load down the road.
All right. Steve?
Yeah, this is probably my first backs out of my entire rankings where I could say I see a true potential for a 3-down role in an offense here. I mean, I think John kind of said a lot of great things about him. I mean, I like the explosiveness, body control. He's got the long speed, which you like to hear. He handled a heavy workload, which you always want to see for a back that has potential to be a 3-down back. Ball security is really well. The only reason he's not really higher on my list is that I want to see more in the pass protection. He wasn't really good, and you watched the film in 21, not that great. And then it seemed like he wasn't really involved in terms of those situations as much in 2022. Maybe they were just trying to avoid that situation, or if they trying to change their scheme a little bit on the offense where they didn't use him that way. They used him more as a receiving option in that sense there. But I mean, he's a good player, honestly. I don't really have too many negatives on him, but I'm excited to see where he lands. I like his opportunity at the next level.
I agree. And to your note on pass protection, he didn't allow a sack in 2022. So he definitely got better at pass protection over his career. So I wouldn't as much. I wouldn't. Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't knock that against him. I think he's good enough at it. I saw enough where I was like, okay, he can do it. He wasn't getting run around or ran over at all. There were a couple of times where he missed the assignment where you're like, all right, you probably should have picked that guy up, but other than that, he can do it when he's faced kind of one-on-one. But yeah, I like him. I think he's a good back. He's another one. He has that sort of explosive speed on film, which John talked about. I would have loved to put a number to it versus just objectively being like, oh, he runs away from guys. It's like I like having a number there, but he does run away from guys when he does kind of get the little head start going. So yeah, he's a good back. I think he's, again, one of those guys where, you put him in, sort of a zone scheme and you can clear up some space to the outside for him. Yeah, he's going to make a lot of people miss, and he's fast. So, he can turn the edge and cut up on you and gain 15, 20 real quick. So that's useful. That'll definitely be helpful in the next level. And he has the size and strength to kind of stand up to the NFL, unlike A-Chain, who I think has that speed, has that ability too, but it's 186 pounds versus 210. So big difference there. I like Sean Tucker a lot. If he goes early round 4, I think you got yourself a decent fantasy player.
Roschon Johnson. Coach Steve. Another Texas guy. I wonder who you have number 1. Coach, you have him 5. Coach John has him outside the top 10, and our guest John has him 7. John, I'm gonna let you go first. Why is he outside your top 10, and where do you have him ranked?
So I have him. I think I had him 13, 12, 13 in that ballpark, not far. This one is twofold. One, I every time I watch Texas, I'm just so enamored with Bijan. I like completely forget there's even other players on the field, and you have to like really, sort of focus on Johnson. But when you do look at it and you look past all this other nonsense in production, he's solid. He's a great back. He's was just stuck behind probably one of the best collegiate backs we know. So it happens. But he's got enough receptions, enough carries where I think a team will fall in love with him, make a play, make a pass at him. I just think that there's the only part that I worry about is I question his long speed and his like ultimate breakaway ability. It's like it's good to be a plodding, strong, change of pace back, but for fantasy, I need guys with a little bit more. And I say that as I made a case for Chase Brown, but I need people with a little bit more sort of pop. But Roschon Johnson's good back. Again, he's another one that I'll probably have to go back and reevaluate again and look at a little bit more. And he's someone that I'll be honest, I've watched maybe 5 or 6 hours of film on him, not a ton. So enough that like I can tell that he's going to be in the NFL. He's going to have a job for sure, but not enough to make a conviction whether I think he's going to be like a fantasy superstar.
All right. Who wants to go next? You want to do the hot porridge, Coach Steve?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. I mean, Johnson is a very interesting case because he has the talent of some of these elite guys, but obviously we didn't see that kind of production at the college level. Clearly, obviously, he was behind one of the best backs of all time. And I think that's a benefit to him. He doesn't come in with too much of a workload where like, all right, he's got a lot of tread on his tires. Like if BJ Robinson wasn't there, Johnson would probably have had 700 yards, 700 attempts in his college career if he was a Texas guy over 4 years, or he would have probably came out last year. I mean, he's someone who is very, very good at a lot of things. He's got the size, he's got the contact balance, great vision, very patient runner. He's an outstanding blocker, so that's going to be a big benefit for a lot of NFL teams out there. I'd say he's above average in terms of the passing game. He can catch the ball very well. I mean, if you saw he had 56 receptions through 4 years as the backup, and that's pretty good as the backup. I get he doesn't have that long speed. But he has good speed. Again, there's really not much to say. He does need to run a little bit more down pad level. He is a taller back. Doesn't really run like downwards. He kind of stays up a little bit, which could cause issues. And he's not one of those guys that's kind of quickly change direction and find a way to get out of a situation sometimes. So, I mean, those are my only two knacks on him. But for the most part, he's a really good running back. And I'm excited for what he can do at the next level here. So.
I said way back in December that the NFL was going to like Roschon Johnson more than fantasy football. Let's not overlook the obvious. 219, 6 feet tall. He's got an NFL body. He's all man physical. He can pound you. He doesn't have I think it's sometimes hard. His lateral quickness and vision is underrated because we compare him against Bijan. When you're watching Texas, your Bijan's so good. I think sometimes he gets overlooked at how good Roschon is at some of these skill set. He led the team in rushing as a true freshman who was a quarterback in high school. He transitioned at the age of 18/19 from quarterback to running back and led the Longhorns in rushing. He easily could have jumped out of this program through NIL transfer portal. I give the young man credit. He stayed on campus. He stayed a Longhorn. I think he's going to go in the 3rd round of the draft at the latest. I like Roschon Johnson. He's also, if you watch, he's good in the Wildcat, and he can throw the football. Yeah. There's a lot of things to like about this young man. I think he's a 3rd round pick in the NFL.
Bring him to Miami.
Yeah, you love that stuff down there. All right, on to the top 7. Israel, I'm not even going to say Abanika Nakata.
Anaconda.
Bandakanda. See, that's why we have guests on the podcast, guys. Got it straight.
It'll be a long time to practice, trust me.
Coach Steve has him 9th, outside the top 10 for John. Our guest has him 4th. John, you're going to start us off on there.
Well, he's just become my guy throughout this process. I like the film before the 40 time, and if you don't know, everyone, he ran a 4.41 in that general area. I couldn't believe, after I looked at the production, I went to their webpage and I was like, 5'11", 215. He's bigger than I thought. And then he weighed 216. I'm like, oh my God, he is that big, because we all know they fudge the numbers at the college level. So when I got a final confirmation that he is 216 pounds at 5'11", youngest back in this class, he's not even old enough to have a beer yet. He's going to get drafted at 20 years of age, and he can't have a drink legally when he's going to sign a contract possibly to play in the NFL. Just think about that. So you have to project him. What can he be when he's 22? I think he's Tiki Barber. I'm not saying it's the best comp, but when I watched him, I have flashes of Tiki Barber. And if you haven't looked to see how good Tiki Barber's numbers are, folks, Tiki Barber might be the most underrated running back of the last 20 years. Do you know he had over 1,000 yards rushing in 5 of his last 6 seasons? He also, I think he ended his career on a 1,800-yard season. And Tiki Barber was touching the ball 330 times a year in rushing and catching. I mean, Tiki Barber was unbelievable. If he was around now with those numbers, he would literally be so far above and beyond anyone in fantasy football right now.
Yeah.
Abandakanda had a 33% market share of his team's offense. His highest ranked 1,577 yards from scrimmage. Did I tell you he's only 20 years of age? I'm absolutely in love. What could he be at 22? He's going to be in the league for 2 years, and he's going to be 22 years of age. Oh, yum. That's 3 years before 25. I mean, I'm all in.
I just want to real quick. He's actually 8th on my rankings. I messed this up. He's not 9th.
Okay.
I can show you my He's above A-Chain. He's above A-Chain. He's my 8th on my list here. I love this guy. He's definitely rose for me over the last few weeks. I think early February I had him at like 12 or 13, and then over the last couple months doing more review, everything like that, he just jumped up my board here. I mean, he's not at 4, unfortunately, not yet. Maybe by the NFL draft, but there's a lot of great things. John said age, low miles. That's a really good thing about him. He's got a great combination of size and speed to him. Very competitive running style, which I love. He's got solid bursts. He's very creative with the ball. He's going to be great on special teams, so he's going to get drafted just to help that maybe early on in his career. Probably not. He's probably going to be an actual running back and actually probably be on the field at some team here. I don't really see too many negatives. Maybe a little bit more in the passing game. I would have loved to see a little bit more on what he's able to do, but I think he had like 29 receptions. It's not bad. I maybe want to see more out of it, but can't ask for that always. He's a good running back here, honestly. I said Sean Tucker was like my first running back that's a 3-down skill set. It starts with him here.
Oh, yeah.
He's my first running back that these guys in forward are 3-down running backs and can be a 3-down running back here. I messed that up before, but yeah, I love this man a lot there. I'm excited to see where he lands because it could be very interesting for his value. Could be a first-round pick.
I have dreams of Miami. I mean, if you got him in that outside zone blocking scheme and you just told him, go, young man, go. I mean, he's dangerous with that speed. With Waddle and Tyreek Hill on the offense, you're just looking at 3 guys. Man, they get in the open field, you're in trouble.
The defense is going to be exhausted by halfway through the second quarter. They're going to be exhausted.
All right. We're going to go to number 6. Try to wrap this up. I think we got like 10, 12 minutes up. Coach Steve, outside top 10. John has him 4th, and John has him 5th. So those guys are collectively in agreement. Coach, why do you have Keandre Miller outside your top 10?
For me, he's 11th, if it helps. He's not far outside my top 10. For me, it's just the guy. I see him more of as a 2-down skill set player. I didn't really see or like what I saw in the production in the passing game there. I think he's a good runner, good balance, good body contact, great vision, in between the tackles kind of runner. I don't really see the explosiveness that I wanted to see from him, or the speed to get on the outside. That's kind of why I have him on the outside. I mean, obviously, some people really like this man Miller a lot there, but I just feel like he's a 2-down works that kind of player, and I don't think he has that 3-down skill set that I want to see at the next level. So, but tell me I'm wrong, guys.
Well, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Everyone has opinions. So this is why I love Miller. We talked about the age on the last guy. Kendre Miller's another young guy. He's only 20 as it is now. So I think he'll be 21 when it comes to draft day, but he's still, super young guy. The other thing I like about him too is, let me pull my notes out. So 215 pounds, 5'11", big back, big body, powerful runner. I think that he is one of those guys that doesn't shy away from contact, but can avoid it if he needs to. Like, he has a pretty sick jump cut. He has a pretty wild spin move that he has in his disposal to make guys miss, but he's also not afraid to just lower the shoulder and run you over if he thinks he can. He's aggressive. He's a gamer to me. Like, you watch him, it's again, things I liked about Chase Brown. He's hard to take down. Not one guy's just going to, arm tackle him. He's going to run through it. He can catch. He can, do all three things. And he saw 75% of his runs were against a loaded box. And that's number one in the NFL, number one in college. So he's not afraid to just run into people and know that I got to push the pile. I got to get a first down here. And so, these are traits and things that I think will translate well to a team really committing to this player at the next level. And if you're going to commit, 16 carries and 5 or 6 targets a game to a player, that's going to be useful for fantasy. It's going to be. We saw it happen with Dameon Pierce. We're going to see it happen with Kendre Miller. I mean, some team is just going to say, you know what? He's good enough. He's our guy for now. We're going to hang on to him and play him. And hopefully he takes that role and explodes with it. But I think he is an out-of-the-box, day one, put him in your offense, NFL running back.
I agree. He's a day one, play him right away. 5'11", 215. I love his ability. You mentioned, I didn't know those numbers in the box.
No, yeah.
But those are great because I saw him pound Big 12 defenses between the tackles all day long, and he does enjoy contact. I mean, I maybe I'm just old, but I like people who look for contact at the running back position.
Yep.
He averaged 6.7 yards a carry as a 215-pound back. I know he's got the injury, so there's a little bit of unknown with him. But I think the NFL, I grade backs inside out. He's a rock star inside between the tackles. He's big. He's physical. I agree with Coach Steve. He doesn't have a lot. He's not impressive in the passing game. But he had 29 receptions. He wasn't ineffective. He's not running routes like Najee Harris 20 yards down the field or nothing. But you know what? I think he can catch the ball at an adequate NFL level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough that you can throw it to him. You're not gonna build a plan around it.
No.
All right, we're going to the top 5 guys. Tank Bigsby. Coach Steve has him 4th. Coach John has him 7th. John, our guest, has him 9th. But basically, I heard this guy's a little smaller guy, I believe, but he's a monster apparently. At the same time, Coach Steve, I'll let you go again first. You have him 4th. Let him read.
I mean, he is 6 foot 210. I mean, he's not too small, but. No, I mean, I love Tank Bigsby. Watching the film on him, I was just blown away watching his film. I mean, their speed, the vision. He's got the NFL build. He's a touchdown machine. It shows good promise as a receiver in the backfield there. Someone who can make the cuts, has that change of direction. I think he can be used in different types of schemes, which likes him even more because obviously we know running backs and they're limited on their schemes and they go to a team that doesn't fit them. It just be a bad day for him. I think Tank Bigsby can do that and do that well with a lot of different teams there. Again, I don't really see too many negatives on him. Again, the big things people are going to say, and you guys might say in a few minutes here, is the lack of elite numbers in college, which I get. Definitely not great that he didn't have an elite season. But I think that there's still room for him to grow. And I think you watch these Auburn teams, I mean, they weren't very good teams overall in a general sense there. And I think if he gets in the right coaching staff, I think his talent can shine in the right situation. And that's why I love him. I mean, just watching the film alone, it just blew me away early on. That's why I have him fourth.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. And one of the stats that really jumped out to me, the way I do it is I'll watch film and then go back and look at stats and everything else and see if it kind of matches up with what I saw. And 64% of his yards came after contact, which makes sense because Tank Bigsby is that kind of guy where he's going to bounce off the first guy, keep going, get a couple extra yards and keep the ball moving, keep chugging along. I think that's, again, valuable in the NFL as linebackers and safeties are starting to get a little bit smaller, quicker, faster. There is some value to, we watched Derrick Henry. There's some value to someone who's just big and strong. And I think Tank Bigsby I think he likes to, he was hit behind the line of scrimmage a lot, but tend to always just get positive yardage somehow, which I think, sometimes we as fantasy analysts and we as evaluators try and look at the big plays like, oh, he did this, he did that, he did this. Watching Tank Bigsby get hit 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and turning it into an 8-yard run to me is like amazing. I'm like, how did he even do that? Like, it's crazy that this even is a positive play. Like, you look at it, you're like, oh, he's blown up behind the line. And you're like, oh, wow, he turned that into a positive play. Like, NFL teams will really value that sort of gamesmanship, that grittiness. He doesn't waste time behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't dance around much. He looks for the hole and goes, which is good and bad. It's bad because if it's not there, he doesn't seem to have like a second plan of attack. He just is like, this is what I'm doing. And hopefully it works. So that I think is a little bit of a problem at the next level. But if you get him behind a good offensive line, he's the type of guy that can just generate good yardage on his own.
Tank Bigsby came out of high school with Bijan Robinson and Zach Evans, and I would say he was like a 4.5-star recruit. Some services had him at 4, some services had him at 5. So he's been on like the Devy radar, college fantasy football radar for a long time. I'll echo what Steve kind of alluded to. Auburn's offensive line is terrible. Coach John said the same thing. He probably played at the 3 worst seasons of Auburn football in the last 2 decades. They got rid of Coach Malzone. They brought in Harspin from Boise State. He was a disaster down at Auburn. They fired him, maybe 5 or 6 weeks into the season. So there is some context behind his lack of production. And some of it is just he wasn't at Auburn at the right years, right? It did not happen. Yet, when I watch the film, similar to Zach Evans, for a player I expect to wow me, he never has wowed me. I have glimpses of, this is a real legitimate player, but I never was like, wow, that was amazing. His numbers are good in my model. They're not great, but I do see there could be a team that falls in love with him and takes him in the second round of the draft. I think he'll get some SEC consideration. We know that the SEC running backs in general historically have done very well, right? So I think there might be a team that just loves this build. He played against the best in the country. I had hoped he was bigger, 6'0", 210. He's a little, but he's still very important. He's over the 210 or over the 200-pound mark. I thought he was like 217, 218. 210 is nice, but it's just not elite. And the 4.56 bothered me a little bit. I thought he was a faster back than that in the 40.
Yep. That's fair.
Tajay Spears. Coach Steve has him 6th. Coach John has him 5th. And John has him 6th.
Coach John, you couldn't let us agree on one, man.
Sorry, I didn't get the memo.
This is the first one we came so close to.
For that, John, you're going first since you can't be in agreement.
Okay. So really the two biggest things about Tajay Spears that I really love is, and these are, again, things that I saw on film that the stats just back it up. He averages 4.2 yards after contact, which I love. Good contact balance, hard to bring down at first tackle, which I always look for in college because that is a skill that translates. And also, again, he's another one where against loaded boxes, 7+ guys in the box, he had 7.5 yards per carry in that situation. So again, when they knew in the situations, when they knew Tulane was going to run, he still produced and still got yardage. And so that's another thing that I like to see is if the defense is selling out to stop you, can you still produce? And he's like, yeah, of course I can. I can produce at an elite level, 7.5 yards a carry. So, those are things that, again, showed me when I watched film, I saw good vision. I saw good contact balance. I saw enough explosiveness that he can create space and separate. He's not really going to outrun a safety, but he's fast enough that he can make someone look stupid for a second, which is good. Enough receptions that I'm confident that he can handle it. He can handle pass catching. He might run basic patterns, but good enough that you could do it. I like him. I think he's going to get the small school knock, is probably in fantasy circles and in rookie drafts and things like that. Everyone always gets iffy on small school running backs, but I'm confident. I've seen enough and I like him that I would be totally happy with him, in an NFL organization. And I think that would then translate to fantasy production.
Oh, I forgot who else is up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go real quick. I mean, John has kind of said a lot of great things about Spears. Honestly, there's really not too much more outside I have to say. I mean, the very decisive runner, dynamic, twitchy, shifty, can change direction very, very well, breakaway speed. The only knock, I mean, inexperience on special teams. I don't know if that will hurt his value or not at all. Probably not. I mean, he's literally won the offseason in terms of a running back. I mean, he had a fantastic Senior Bowl. He did well enough at the combine that continued to boost up his production here. I mean, I've been doing a lot of mock drafts for a lot of different shows and contents, and I always seen that he always seems to kind of go later at times for some people, at the 2.8, where he should probably be higher. And I think some people value him high, but then some people are off on him. He's really kind of like a split player. Every time I've listened to a podcast or anything in the general sense, I hear great things about him, that's why I like him. And then I hear the bad things, and I'm like, there's just such a split on him. But he's a great running back.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love Tajay Spears, but I try to be realistic. Coming out of the G5, in the last 3 years, it's only a 27% chance that you are a top 24 PPR scorer in fantasy football. And 3 of those finishes are from Austin Eckler, the ultimate outlier. I love him, and there's no one I'm rooting for more than Tajay Spears. So that's why I put him at 6. And I want to say, Coach, I love what you said. And one thing that I love about him on tape, I call it a spidey sense. When he's in the open field at the second level, I've seen there's film where there are 3 tacklers all within 5 yards of him, and all of them, he takes them all down and he scores. His spidey sense at the second level is incredible. When he gets out in that open field, he's incredible. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. He was the total offense of Tulane. I'm rooting for this young man. I can't put him in my top 4 because the odds are difficult. Now, if the NFL drafts him in the top of the second round, I'll say this. That means they think he's the outlier of the group of 5.
Good analysis right there. Zach Carbonet. Coach Steve has him 3rd. John has him 3rd, and our guest has him 2nd. Yes, go first.
I'll be honest with you. I'm closer with guest John than I am my own 3rd ranking. But I like. I mean,
it's very small, to be honest.
These top two are the top three, I guess. Two of the top three are getting iffy. The race is getting tight.
Give me power,
Mm-hmm.
speed,
Mm-hmm.
and strength.
Mm-hmm.
He's 214 pounds, man. He ran a 4.53. And Zach Charbonnet is physical, punishing. He can take a massive workload. I don't think people give him enough credit for how he's been dominant at UCLA. Not good, dominant at UCLA the past 2 years. And I'm going to say you've got to watch film of him at Michigan. I think you're doing a disservice if you haven't. It's interesting. Why I like him so much. Could you be more different than playing in a Jim Harbaugh run game and a Chip Kelly run game? His freshman year as a true freshman, he had over 750 yards rushing for the Wolverines. And basically, the Wolverines play in a phone booth. They don't even play tackle to tackle. They play guard to guard. Like, they play in such tight spaces. And for him to be that good at a true freshman level in a Jim Harbaugh offense is pretty outstanding. I don't think people love the run game enough. Literally, Jim Harbaugh slamming a backside guard, putting the tight end in motion, sending the fullback up, and telling the running back to go up in the smallest crease. Do you have any idea how difficult that is? Then he goes west to Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly says, hey, young man, we're going to put you out in space. We're going to get you in the edge, and you find a lane and explode to it. I don't think you could get two more diametrically opposite running games than UCLA and Michigan, and he was good in both. I'm sorry. He's got everything I'm looking for. He's scheme diverse. He's powerful. Now, the only thing, he's not a great pass catcher. But I will say he's not a good route runner, but he's actually a better pass catcher. Watch how quick he catches it and turns upfield. You know what I love about him? There's no dancing. He doesn't look around to see where the players are. He gets the pass and pop, pow. Let's go, boys. I love that.
Yep. I put in my notes Jekyll and Hyde career because it just was. It was like you said it best. And I'm a Michigan fan.
Yeah,
Michigan sucks to watch on offense sometimes. It sucks. So to see him find space, create yardage, and do all that stuff at Michigan, and then to go to UCLA. And I remember when he went, and I said, "Oh my God,
I thought it was crazy."
I go.
How could you be so different than going to UCLA?
Like, I don't know how this is going to work. But what I said was, if it does work, this kid's going to explode. And it did work, and he did explode. And so you have to kind of start to, this is one of those things where, everyone wants to say consensus puts Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's like at some point you have to make a consensus for yourself and be like, look, Zach Charbonnet has been doing it since he was a true freshman at Michigan. He went to a more open space spread offense at UCLA and put up video game numbers. So whatever offense he goes into in the NFL, he's going to be productive. Whether he goes to the Ravens and he's, chugging away at the Ravens, that's fine. He's going to be productive. Or if he goes to the Chargers and he replaces Austin Eckler, he's going to be super productive. So I am starting to lean more on this side that he's probably closer to 2 for me. Unbelievable back. Like you said, great power, great everything you need. He had enough receptions. I think he has good hands. He catches away from his body, which sometimes you need when you see a running back kind of catch it with their chest, you're like, all right, you got I'm trying to think like Jordan Howard sort of hands where it's like right in your chest. You're like, all right, that's not great. Charbonnet,
75 career receptions.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He catches away from the body. He's fine. So I think he is. I think he is probably talking through it with everybody. He's probably closer to my 2. So that should tell you how I feel about him. He's a great back. I would take him at the 103 103. I would take him at the 104. I'd be totally fine with it. So, yeah, Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah. I think you guys said basically everything that I could think of to say about this man. He is one, I think, of two people that instead of being a 3-down back, this is a workhorse type level back here.
Oh, yeah.
And if
He's a
he
4-down
gets in that
back somehow.
situation where he can be a workhorse back, there's no competition whatsoever. He's going to be in the top 7 picks, depending on obviously how everything else goes. If he gets into that workhorse situation, which he can do, so
Dallas.
Ooh, that would be dude. Him and Tony Pollard would be.
That'd be a great backfield.
That would be pretty
man.
sick, actually.
Well, we could dream about those prospects and the end of this month. We're going to go on to number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs. Coach Steve and Coach John have him second. John has him third. Coach Steve, since you really didn't get much output on the last one, I'll let you go first.
Nah, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is just like he has tremendous upside. Passing game value is elite. Great hands. Route running is fantastic. Looks like a wide receiver out there sometimes. Burst through the hole. Fantastic vision. Can get to the outside side with his speed. Can make defenders miss. And you watch it on film, he just sometimes makes defenders look silly out there. Quick footwork. I mean, the only thing that really is a knock can he be a real true, workhorse back at being at number 2? That's a big question mark for me personally. That's why Charbonnet could be higher on this list. He could be my 2, to be honest. But I mean, he presents that upside in the receiving game, that just the way the NFL is developing with pass catching running backs we've seen over the last 7 years here now. Like, he can be a true weapon for a team. It just happens to be just a running back, but has a pass catcher as well. And that's why he's at 2 for me, because that upside is unbelievable.
Yep. Super elusive with the ball in his hands. I mean, you like to see it. He was a great punt returner. You like to see that, all those things that are good. The only question is that 200-pound mark. He's floating right at it. He's floating right at it.
Very close.
And he probably had a pound of biscuits and about a gallon of water before he went out there.
Yeah, 100%. So I do get a little worried. 5'9", 199 is not the best. And he didn't do a lot of inside runs at Alabama. But that being said, I think the way that the NFL is transitioning and the way these creative play callers are getting space and creating opportunities for these players, he is the type of guy that you would do that for. He's super electric. He's crazy with the ball in his hands. And so you would do scheme things. You would scheme up 5 or 6 plays a game for Jahmyr Gibbs to hopefully take one of those to the house. And so that's why I love him. I don't think he is ever going to be a 3-down back, but he is going to be a very integral weapon in an offense. Passing, he'll get 10 rushes, 10 passes, and be a real difference maker in the right offense.
2 things I love. I love the film, so that's without saying. He had 101 career receptions at Georgia Tech and Alabama. That's really impressive. He ran a 4.36. So the speed, and I think he's in my grading system, he's the best receiver out of the backfield in this class. Like, he can be special down the field. Like, I'm talking about wheel routes, but he can run drags. He can run crossing patterns.
Yeah.
He can attack the safety over the top. I mean, he's an elite receiver. The 199, he's in the margin of error. So that's
barely.
That's a little concern. Why I have Sharp better, I have to balance touchdown equity potential with PPR scoring. I think Charb can be a 15 touchdown player. Can Gibbs? I don't think so. You mentioned it, Coach John. I don't think he's great between the tackles. Now, he'll get his explosive home runs because he'll get some screen passes or he'll run a wheel route. But if you're on 1st and 10 at the 4, I don't think Gibbs is the guy in the backfield for you. I think you're going to bring in a bigger back. He might have a year with double-digit touchdowns, just the way the offense schemes, the way maybe there's an injury, something like that. I think Charb's upside of touchdown equity of a better, more explosive Melvin Gordon that's what it does for me. I think you're looking at Chubb, who can have a bunch of 12, 11, 15, 12 touchdown seasons with nice receiving. Gibbs might get you to 60 receptions, but what's his touchdown? 6, 7, 9, maybe. So that's the difference to me.
Okay, I hear you. And our number one player, Bijan Robinson. If you don't
Surprise.
know, he's everyone's top player. If you haven't seen it, just YouTube anything Bijan related on YouTube, and you'll see monster after monster plays. He's our last guy. John, I'll let you go first.
So I guess really the only question you have to ask, the only question we should ask ourselves is, do you take him 101 in a super flex startup?
Yes.
Or in a super flex
Absolutely.
rookie draft? That's,
Yes.
that's the only question you have to ask, because obviously he's a freaking bulletproof prospect. Obviously. So the only question and the only advice I give people is, what do you do if you're in a rookie draft super flex? Do you take him 101? And my answer is yes. But there are a lot of people who still believe in CJ Stroud and other guys. But I still think if you have the 101, I don't care the format. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care who's on your team. You could have all running backs on your team. You add Bijan Robinson. You just add him because he's that good. He's that good.
Yeah.
I'll just say, obviously, the film's incredible. Talent's off the charts. In my 10 years of profiling players on footballdiehards.com, so this is my 10th anniversary. So I don't use things that I don't have any record. Like, I could say I love LaDainian Tomlinson, but there's no record of it. I don't have it in print. You can see everything I've done in the last 10 years. Bijan Robinson is in an elite group. The 5 best backs that I've graded and seen: Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Jonathan Taylor, and Breece Hall. I probably now have Bijan Robinson ahead of Breece Hall, but it's close. I don't think I can put him ahead of Barkley, Elliott, and Taylor yet as far as prospects. I mean, he's probably going to end up as the 4th best prospect of the last 10 years at running back. And we've seen, if Breece Hall doesn't get injured, he was in for a special season last year. He was going to be spectacular. So we've seen what the other 3 players can do when they're healthy. I love Bijan.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not much to say. He's an elite prospect here. He's going to be the 101 in every single rookie format you possibly have here. He's going to be the next elite running back for like the next 5 or 6 years at least. So be ready to draft him. And that's all you need to know. If you need to know more, watch film on him, because you're just one game. You're like, oh, I get it. Good enough.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the running backs, all 14 of them on our consensus rookie rankings show. Our guest, John, do you have anything you would like to say? Anything you're doing in the fantasy community?
Sure. I just want to say, hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. I love come on, 2nd year in a row. So it's been a pleasure to come on. As I mentioned, this is my 10th year doing my written profiles on footballdiehards.com. Go check them out. And if you want to see my video / audio, go to everyone. Go to YouTube and go to Rookie Big Board channel. And we've broken down most of these players in our videos. Matt Hicks and I on the Rookie Big Board channel, we preview between 11 and 13 minutes. Most of these players, I think we got at least 9 or 10 of the players that we've discussed. But that's what I'm working on. Now it's just being a guest mostly on shows for the next 2 weeks.
Well, you put in the work, man.
Thank you.
Words. John?
I got nothing. I just want to tell the listeners, look, there are a few voices and a few people in this space and community that I really love and trust. And John is one of them when it comes to grading and scouting. So please go read his work at Football Diehards. Follow him on Twitter. Talk to him about football. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's been doing it for 10 years. It is a plethora of football knowledge when you get to talk to John. So everyone who's listening to this podcast, follow him, reach out. It's a blast getting to talk ball with him. So
Thank you.
That's all I got. I got nothing else from me. I got to reassess my list now. My Zach Evans love.
Coach Steve, I'm bet you're glad you didn't get crucified this year. Typically happens to you. It seems in years past. Anything else for us?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason why I invited John on. I've heard so many great things about him the prior year. I was like, oh, this guy's got to come on our show for sure. So I had to do it again this year, obviously. He got to pick which position he wanted this time. I think last time we had to do quarterbacks, but this time he got the clean of the litter. He got the running backs, the best. So it's not bad. Good to see Kyle. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Always, it's okay if you're late.
No, you're good, Kyle.
Quick things real quick, Jim. I'm sorry. We have a mock draft show on Thursday night. Tune in around 8 p.m. I'll be hosting that again. And then Sunday, we'll be doing our NFL mock draft show. It's like a fun little live show that I act as a commissioner. We do the first round of the NFL draft. We have a bunch of different analysts and content creators come on, and they pick their selection for each team. People make trades. It's a lot of fun. So that will be at 7 p.m. on Sunday, April 16th. Good 2-hour show. It's a lot of fun. So tune into both the rest of those shows, and obviously we'll be back Monday to talk tight ends. Woo. Lead us off, Chips.
Here first. All right. Well, there you have it. If you want to reach us, you can reach us out on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy, YouTube channel at The Fantasy Coaches, and I'm Coach Jibs, signing out.